Good afternoon, Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com here with your Hurricane and Hurricane HD video blog for Sunday, November the 4th, 2012. Taking a look at the next several days, we have another coastal storm that's going to be forming, but this time the influence is not coming out of the tropics first. It's more of the upper level energy in the atmosphere generating a surface low which will take shape off the North and South Carolina coast here and then move northeast along the mid-Atlantic states. Yes, it'll tap into the warm waters of the Gulf Stream. We'll take a look at that in a minute. But this has a different genesis, what we call cyclogenesis, or the birth of the cyclone, to put it in more simple terms. And it is not from a tropical system getting entrained into a larger mid-latitude storm, which is the case for what happened with Sandy. Nonetheless, the effects are going to be similar. It's just going to be a lot colder to begin with than it was for Sandy. I was up along the New Jersey coast. I'm telling you, that was definitely a cold event for me, but this will be even colder than that. So we're looking at the GFS here. We have another sort of duel going between the GFS and the Euro, the ECMWF. Now, the two models are not that far apart in their depictions, but how close this gets to the coast and its intensity certainly has a big impact on who sees what kind of conditions. Now, this is the 12Z run of the GFS today, and this is valid at about 75 hours out or so. So this is Wednesday in the afternoon. So this is this coming Wednesday afternoon, and the surface low is sitting out here just to the east of the North Carolina Outer Banks. So first, the impacts will be along the coast of the Outer Banks here, where Sandy created some serious tidal flooding, damage to property, damage to infrastructure. This system here will have strong northeast winds, probably 35 to 45 miles per hour, seas building again, and the possibility that at each high tide cycle we have more overwash taking place, maybe even some scattered power outages. So the first area of impact will be along the North and South Carolina coast, with the concentrated energy really focused on the North Carolina Outer Banks, the Pamlico and Albemarle Sounds, as well as, of course, the tiny strip of sand out there from Nags Head, Kitty Hawk down to Cape Hatteras, Rodanthe, Waves, Avon, Salvo, those areas, all the way to Ocracoke. People need to be ready for this. Not quite as intense nor as large, but a powerful system nonetheless. Even without Sandy happening, we would be looking at this and saying that this is quite an impressive coastal storm coming up. Moving ahead, this is out at about 81 hours. This is valid on Wednesday afternoon to early evening. There are some 50-knot northwest winds in here and 50-knot northeast winds to the north, so that New Jersey has a chance here, and Maryland, but mainly the coast of New Jersey, all the way up maybe even into Long Island. But I think it's going to be more concentrated on the coast of New Jersey, looking at the possibility of storm force winds, where we have winds at the surface gusting to over 50 knots, which is 60 miles per hour. Here too, the barrier islands damaged, if not destroyed, and the possibility that each tide cycle we have a significant flooding event. People in New Jersey need to be ready for this, mainly by keeping folks away from the coast. Don't let them go down to sightsee this time. That was a big problem during Sandy. It wasn't so much of a problem as the evening came, because darkness fell and people left, thank goodness. But this is not a time to go and sightsee, especially with all the debris there. They could get blown around, they could get flooded and pushed around. It's going to be more dangerous this time because of the vulnerability of the coastline up there. In terms of the warmth of the Gulf Stream and the western Atlantic, sea surface temperatures still in the 80s, just offshore, so this storm system will tap into some of this very warm water, and warmth equals energy. This will provide some fuel and energy for the storm at the surface and aid in deep tropical type convection, and then the upper levels of the atmosphere will inject those pieces of energy in to combine for a very strong nor'easter that could have surface pressures as it moves along the coast here, depending on the track, maybe lower than 980 millibars, which is strong enough for a hurricane to form if this was in the deep tropics. So just to give you some perspective there, We're not messing around with this. This is another potent system, and even if Sandy hadn't happened before to compare this to, we would be saying that this is impressive. Looking at a zoomed-in shot here of the GFS, this is Wednesday, and you can see that strong northwest wind right there, 50 knots, and then a north to northeast wind. The farther up the coast you go, Jersey is just right up here. So very strong northeast winds wrapping around this system. The possibility of very heavy rain on the backside. How close this tracks to the coast will determine who gets the worst effects. And between the Euro and the GFS, your track forecast is just somewhere like this. Very much like when we're dealing with hurricanes. You get a spread of the model guidance. It's still 3 to 4 days away, and a lot can change. We know how that works. Even though this is not a tropical cyclone, it's still going to be a very powerful one. And it's interesting because you can see that it's pulling in the 20 degrees Celsius line at the surface, meaning that air temperatures out here are in the 70s, whereas 60s and 70s, whereas back here the air temperatures are in the 40s and 50s. So quite a contrast in temperatures, a difference in the thermal structure of the atmosphere, and that sitting over water temperatures that are 78 to 80 degrees makes for a very powerful system that we need to take very seriously. What can I offer as far as advice? I think people in the area that have power back that are seeing this, and if you can send this information to folks up there, if you want to know what's going on, I talk about this a lot. Weather.gov, if you really want to know the impacts, go to weather.gov, that is your National Weather Service. Enter your zip code right here, and then that will take you to your local homepage for the National Weather Service. Mine is 28409, so I see the weather here in Masonboro, North Carolina, my specific zip code area. It's nice, it's 76 degrees right now, yay! But I'm looking for this area right here on that homepage, the red and white hazardous weather conditions box. Today, we have a hazardous weather outlook in here, and I want to know what's going on. You certainly get your forecast, as you can see, for the next 5 days, but if I click on the hazardous weather outlook, that will take me to the text product where I can read all about what to expect for today. Day 1, and then it goes through day 2 and so forth, telling you specifics about what hazardous weather conditions are expected for your area. This is going to be very important as this storm takes shape, because if we go back a couple of slides, folks up in the Northeast that want to know, along the coast of New Jersey especially, and New York and New England up here, what kind of tides am I looking at? What kind of wind speeds? What are the rainfall impacts? Put your zip code in, especially when we get to 48 hours out. So tomorrow and Tuesday, start doing that. Put your zip code in, and you can read on the return pages what kind of impacts to expect, and then that can help you to at least mentally prepare for what's coming. You'll know. It won't take you by surprise. So that's a look at conditions. The tropics themselves, nice and quiet. I will look at the Pacific closer tomorrow. Didn't talk about it today. There's still some activity brewing in the Eastern Pacific. We will look at that closer tomorrow on the update tomorrow morning. Again, I'm Mark Sudduth, HurricaneTrack.com, my website. It's been my honor and a great privilege and a pleasure to produce these videos for you all season. And with that being said, I will have them on a regular basis throughout the week ahead.